All of your programs should start off the same. Whenever I'm writing one, I usually pull up some type of little shell, and it's always the little hello world example. This is the basis for which all programs really start out. What I'm going to do now is write a little subroutine, and it's one of the things that students who are beginning to write programs fear the most, breaking a problem into smaller chunks. And you really shouldn't. It's relatively easy to do, and I'm going to do one here in just a few steps to show you how to create one, how to call it, how to pass parameters. First of all, let's show you where they go. Okay. A couple of ways to do this. I'm going to show you one, and I'll just recommend that you stick with it. It's just a good standard way of doing it. You should have a definition of the subroutine you're going to have. And what we're going to do now is we're going to do the print hello world, and we're going to call a routine to do that, a subroutine to do that. So we'll just take it out here, and we're going to write the little subroutine down below it, and we're going to the return type will be void. We're not going to return a type, and we're going to call the routine hello world, and we're not going to pass it any parameters. You can leave the void off if you want to. I like to put it in. And then we're going to say cout hello world. Okay. And then no return is necessary. Now we're not quite done. Okay. Now before I call it, I've got to put the definition up. I've got to tell the compiler what to expect. So I put what up here is called a definition of the routine, and it's essentially just the top line here with a semicolon. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to edit, copy, and put it up here right below using, and edit and paste and put a semicolon. Now to call it, all I do is put the command like there, hello world, and there it is. Let me save it. All green stripes right here. Everything looks pretty good. Let me do the build solution. Okay. Now you'll see right here, hello world. It didn't really like that. Okay, there's a problem with it. And the problem is I misspelled it. Okay, where did I misspell it? Well, let's look at our example up here, hello world, and we'll say, we have an extra W right there. So let's remove that. Let's save it and go through the build again. Make not found, 1 succeeded, 0 failed, 0 up to date. Alright. And let's start without debugging. Gonna build it again. And hello world. There it is. Works quite well. Alright. And that's how you do just a very, very simple little function without any parameters. Alright. Well, now let's pass a parameter in. Alright. We're going to pass one in by value, and we're going to change that up here. We're going to pass in just an integer, and we'll call it x, shall we? Alright, we'll call it x. Alright. So hello world, and I'm going to do something else here. I'm going to say constant int x. Now the reason I put constant in there, this is just a very good practice. If you're not intent on changing the value that you pass in, and usually you don't, then you want to put constant in front of it, and this prevents your code from actually trying to change it. It also allows you to pass in a literal or constant from the calling routine. So we're going to say hello world, and we're going to pass in the number 100, and we also have to change the calling routine down here too to expect it, and it should look exactly like the definition up there. There are ways to get around it, but not safe is just to make it look the same. Now we're going to print out the value that was passed in. Okay, so we'll say cout, and we're going to say x See out. Okay, let's go ahead and save our program. Building the solution. Okay. Our debugging. And 100 was passed in. Alright. Now, one more thing I'm going to show you before we end this lesson is the routine that I've written doesn't have a return type, and we know it doesn't have a return type because of the void up here. But what you can do is you can as a function return something as a function of the call. Now, it's a little confusing, but let me show you. Let's say that here I want to return a type double. So in other words, whenever I call hello world, not only will I pass parameters in, but I'm going to get a value passed to me that I can use. Now that means that whenever I call it, I have to use that value that was returned. So I'm going to print out, see out. Okay, hello world is going to print a double right there. Okay, was returned a value. Okay, handle gives us a new in return. Alright, now since I'm going to change this right here too, I'm going to make that look exactly like the definition up there, double. And now I've got to make sure that I return a value. So I'm going to return 3.14. Alright, so what's going to happen? Well, let's follow our code right here. The main routine is what controls it. So I'm going to call cout, and it's going to call hello world, and that's going to return a value of 3.14. So what should happen is whenever I call hello world, it'll come in here, it'll say X was passed in, it'll say hello world, and it will return, and then it will come back and it will print 3.14 was returned as a value. Let's go ahead and say let's say that. Compile it. Okay, looked good. Start without debugging. And there we go, and it worked exactly like we said. What 100 was passed in, hello world, and 3.1 was returned as value. So now we've done three things. We've written a small little function, we've called it, we've changed it to pass in a parameter, and we've changed it to not only pass in a parameter but return a type. A couple things to remember. Okay, the functions that you write usually, not always, don't have to, but I would recommend as a habit, they always go after the main routine. In other words, it's the last thing that appears. For every routine that you have, there should be a definition. In other words, the top line right here should appear above the main routine and include a semicolon. Just copy and paste them. They should be identical. Okay? And using them in the routine itself, if they're just a simple type, no return, then they're a statement by themselves. If they return a type like this one did, then they should be used in a statement that is expecting something of that type. Alright, very good.